We'll do that again. Welcome back to the Frame Rate Podcast, Mr. Bond. Today is the final episode of Star Wars. But don't freak out, everyone. Star Wars is forever. We'll definitely talk about it again.
Yeah.
It'll be connected with a whole lot of topics we probably end up talking about.
As of right now, it's the only props we have for our set, so.
Well, you don't know everything I have.
That's fair. It's the only props I have.
But we thought that today we talk, obviously, it'd be really difficult to talk about all of them, but we wanted to talk about Star Wars TV series.
Yeah,
Okay.
like Disney Plus Star Wars.
Cartoon Network Star Wars.
Well, yeah.
Disney Channel Star Wars. Or I guess it was more Disney XD, right? I don't know. I didn't have cable growing up.
Rebels? Yeah, that was Disney XD.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't watch Rebels when it was on
And
Disney
then
XD.
whatever the 2003 Clone Wars.
I've actually never seen that. I've heard that
It's so dope.
phenomenal.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool. You gotta see
Yeah,
that.
I've wanted to for a long time. I've heard those are really awesome.
Yeah, they're so great. They definitely, honestly, like for the most part, certain details I would consider canon, because like I don't know if you're aware, but like they show that how Anakin got his scar.
Mm-hmm.
They introduced Asajj Ventress in the series, and they
Doesn't Shock T die like in her 15th death?
I think so. It's been a minute since I've seen him, but like they make Mace Windu look even more powerful than we already know he is. Like he straight up is punching B2 battle droids to pieces.
I know
with his
that
bare face.
I know that that's also where the introduction of Obi-Wan, I was going to say Obi-Wan and his clone armor
Yeah,
is.
with his sleeves and his cape.
Doesn't he have a helmet too in that one? I don't know. I think I may have seen this, like a clip or two. I know that there's like tons of like the online helmet shops. There's tons of people who make Obi-Wan's helmet, and they're all the same helmet. So it's got to be based off of something.
And like they show how they introduce Grievous. They make him even cooler and scarier than he already is. Obviously, he's more cartoonish, but like he's wicked, taking on 4 Jedi Masters at once and killing all but one of them.
Yeah.
And then showing him kidnap the Chancellor off of Coruscant, and then Mace Windu being the one who gives him lung problems because he crushes his chest plate as he's boarding the ship. Because I mean, if you think about it, like it's definitely. I mean, I don't really know if they really retcon this with Clone Wars, but like, I would think that his general breathing problems are not as bad in the Clone Wars show as they are in Revenge of the Sith.
I don't think it is.
But
It's been a long time since I've watched anything like, because he's not shown hardly. He's not. The last stuff I've seen was season 7 of the Clone Wars, the final season of the Clone Wars. That's what I've watched more recently, and even that was like as soon as I got home from my mission. So that was like 5 years ago. So it's been a
rewatch is in order.
Trust me, I know. There's lots of Star Wars stuff that I need to catch up on.
Yeah.
I need to watch the last season of The Bad Batch. I need to watch Tales from the Empire, Tales of the Underworld, all of Andor. I haven't seen Skeleton Crew.
This is going to be a great episode. Let's talk about the shows, but let's only talk about what limited Clone Wars knowledge I have from at least 5 years ago, and a little bit I know of Rebels just from what I know about it.
I watched all of Rebels.
How long ago?
At the same time. I also watched like the core Disney Plus shows.
Mandalorian and
Ahsoka,
Obi-Wan, Kenobi,
and Obi-Wan and Boba Fett. And I actually don't hate the Book of Boba Fett, unlike everyone else out there. For those who are listening,
not this again.
I just did a Corey.
We're at a point where no matter what, if you're on YouTube or Spotify, you can watch what he just did. But if you're listening on anything else, go to YouTube or Spotify, follow and subscribe to us there, and watch what Tristun just did, and comment about why it
keeps making an appearance.
Yeah, that's like the third or fourth time it's happened in what, 11?
Yep.
Well, I guess 11 and a half. This is our 12th episode. Weird. But hey, which show do you want to talk about first then?
I would say, why don't we go by, I don't know. Okay, I'll just, The Mandalorian. Because I've gone on the record saying before that I think that season 2 is the greatest like bit of Star Wars content ever made. I would still stand by that.
It's okay.
Solely because season 2 is nothing but fan service.
Well, I guess you haven't seen Andor season 2 yet, because that's my sentiment with that one, but it's also a little bit of recency bias, but I will stand by it. But hey, I still think Mando season 2 is great. It's a lot of fun.
I think it's really good.
Yeah.
I love it. I think they did a lot. Hush now.
We're talking about you. You and your little soup cup.
What?
Do you remember that?
No.
When him and the one lady are fighting. I know it's season 1, but they're fighting, and he's just sitting there drinking his soup.
Oh yeah, now I do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No. What do I start on it? I mean,
The beginning.
okay. So in the I really liked. It's all, again, it's just fan service. I think that's probably why I enjoy it the most. But I thoroughly enjoy watching, like, there's something about watching characters that you grew up watching as a kid that were animated, like, come to live action, right? I'm pretty sure it's probably how millennials felt when they watched, like, the early phases of Marvel. And they saw, like, Iron Man, and they're like, wow.
Who with the Mandalorian are you talking about here?
Well, all of season, everybody you've got, I would say probably.
Are you just talking about like Bo-Katan?
Ahsoka's in it. They don't show him, but they mention Thrawn.
Yeah.
I don't know. Those characters.
Okay. I was like, my mind was on like season 1. I was like, is there anyone in that?
And I know that they don't.
Animated?
I know that Cobb Vanth technically isn't an animated character, but I knew about his story before, so seeing him come like into play, I thought that was super cool too. Oh, and Cad Bane. I was gonna say Cad Bane, but that's not until Boba Fett.
Well, yeah,
which I guess would also be considered Mandalorian season 2.5.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to sidetrack too hard, because I don't know how much we'll actually end up talking about Book of Boba Fett, because I don't really know how much there would really be to say. But like, I feel really bad for Tamura Morrison, because like he definitely put his all into being Boba Fett, but Disney did not put their all into him.
No,
because you can see with Mando season 2, and he makes his appearance, that he plays Boba Fett just like we all knew Boba Fett to be.
Yeah.
Crazy good.
Yeah.
A fighter, an intimidating presence.
Yeah. It seems like to me that, I mean, I've seen this theory floated around a lot. The reason why the Book of Boba Fett failed so much was because the character that we all wanted Boba Fett to be, that mantle was taken up by the Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
So then they kind of had to go a different route for Boba Fett.
I think like the initial idea of making him the underground, crime lord, was good. It's just they didn't really
it's
go very far.
It's because this is my. I don't want to talk about things that I don't like, but I have to point it out.
We need to.
The only problem with the Book of Boba Fett is that Disney has an obsession of making every character. I mean, nowadays, not just Disney itself, but also like movies in general. A common trend is where they're making bad guys good, right? You've seen that with Venom. You've seen that with Kraven. Almost every single Spider-Man villain, really, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them,
Or
like
like-
with like Venom and stuff, they all they fall into like the anti-hero thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like looking at these bounty hunters, you know,
Right.
like, they appear to be working for Darth Vader
Right.
and all that, but they're just working for the money. They don't care.
But my
what
point
happens.
is like there's this weird common trend where they're trying to make like the bad guys when they get their own story, like, or even like the anti-heroes, like when they get their own story, there has to be some like good redeeming arc behind everything, right? Like in the case with Venom. Venom's just a villain, right? He's just a villain. But in the movies, he's an anti-hero, right? So they make him good, but also not good. I think that's the same thing that happened with Boba Fett, is where Disney was like, well, we can't make him just like, we do have kids watching this, so we can't just make him like a crime lord who loves crime, right?
Well, I guess now that you
Like,
say that,
they couldn't make a show like the Jabba the Hutt show, right? Because Jabba the Hutt's just an awful person. Stop.
I'd love that.
I know you would.
Give me more Bib Fortuna. They did my boy dirty. Made him freaking fat. And then killed him immediately.
But my point is like that's just what I noticed. I
You
liked,
wanted your last Wonga.
stupid. No, you're getting me off track here. That's just what I thought was the biggest problem. I didn't have a problem with it. I actually really liked the Book of Boba Fett, minus the weird choreographed fight scene at the end. But I thought it was good.
I mean,
It was a new take, and it was definitely something original. That we hadn't
to
seen.
kind of connect it to things you've said previously, do you think you like it because Luke Skywalker's in it? I guess maybe not like the entire reason why you like it, but do you think you like it more because of that?
I will say that the best episodes of it are the episodes that have fan service characters in them, like The Mandalorian and Ahsoka and Luke. But I wouldn't say that that's what made it great. Like, it was like a 6.5. It was a crock pot dinner.
The Book
Right.
of Boba Fett.
It was a crock pot dinner, and like those two episodes, and I guess by proxy the last episode too, were like when your mom brings out like the bread, freshly baked bread, and then like the butter to put on it that you can eat with the crock pot dinner, where you're like, it was good, but now it's better, right? 'Cause that's how it was for me.
Bread makes everything better,
So that
both in my tummy and in my pockets.
I'm rumbling. I'm rambling
There's a
on.
rumbly in my mouth.
I'm rambling on, but I thought it was a good show. There was definitely a lot of things that a lot of other people didn't like, though.
Yeah, let's talk about Mandalorian.
Yeah. Anyways, back to the Mandalorian. Well, what I really liked about the Mandalorian was the introduction of the
Mandalorian.
No, stop. No, the light,
The volume?
the volume.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was the introduction of the volume. And like before they had shown, because at the end of all of these like Star Wars series, they always have like a into the universe show where they kind of like show the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And up until then, I don't think like at least in season 1, before they showed that, no one knew, right? Everyone just thought it was just like really good backdrop,
Just blue screen.
right?
That like ILM had really stepped it up this time.
Right.
Because the first, it's like, it was really, honestly.
It was like the first time it was ever used.
Well, yeah, it was created for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't have happened without Jon Favreau. Not to nerd out here for a second, but I think we already
Go
talked
ahead.
about it on an episode previously, so I shouldn't
Sum it up.
Anymore.
Sum it up.
Jon Favreau directed the live action Lion King that came out in 2019. I want to say 2019. And to create it the way that he did, to make it look as good as it did, backgrounds and characters and all, he used VR technology and game engines to process and like animate things in real time, like video games do. And he took that idea and that technology into The Mandalorian when he was hired to help co-create this alongside Dave Filoni, and they created pretty much a giant VR headset as a backdrop.
Yeah.
And it showcases a basic background for the scene that they're shooting, but then software connected to the camera
shows it from that point of view.
In that angle, exactly how it will look in camera. So no matter where a character is standing, as long as their back is to the volume, the camera's pointing at them, in camera, you will see them with perfect created background. It just, all it did was it switched the process from backgrounds being created post-production to pre-production so that they can be live shown right there and then just touched up in post.
Yeah.
That wasn't super brief, but
yeah. And
you get the gist.
No, but it's when The Mandalorian season 1 came out, that was like revolutionary, right? And I remember seeing parts of season 1 when I was on my mission, and I remember just being blown away, right? Because it was like, because you can tell a difference. Like when you go back and you watch, I've obviously, like, the prequels are a really bad example. The sequels are much better, right? But when you watch both of the, because the originals don't really use a lot of that because it's painted backgrounds, which don't get me wrong. That was something we should have brought up. The painted backgrounds.
Matte paintings. Like, yeah, they're really good. Obviously, there's two of them in particular that people usually point out the most that like it looks the worst, but the paintings are still really good. Like both ironically in Return of the Jedi. One is like the dune sands when R2 and 3PO are being picked up as they're leaving from the Sarlacc pit. It's very obviously behind the pile of sand that they used as a set. Just very painted. And then when Lando and Han are separating to go on their different missions, Han down to the forest moon of Endor and Lando to prepare for the assault on the Death Star 2. And they're standing in front of the Millennium Falcon. The Falcon is all a matte painting, but it's just like 1986 compositing or 83 compositing, and like they don't look like they're actually there. And so it makes the background look worse, but the painting itself is gorgeous.
Yeah. But then my point being is like the computer generated backgrounds that we have, especially in the sequels, because we talked about how great this, like the VFX are in the sequels. Like even with then, like comparing those to The Mandalorian, like The Mandalorian is like it's like when I say that, like it makes you feel like the actors are actually there, they're actually there, right? And I do think that The Mandalorian also, like something that I enjoy a lot about The Mandalorian is that I'm a big fan of practical effects with like a touch of CGI, always have been. And The Mandalorian season 1 was like very big. Like obviously Jon Favreau was very big on practical effects. He was like that when he was doing stuff for Marvel.
Yeah.
And a lot of his movies that he's also done, like outside of Disney, it's all been practical. So like naturally when he brings that stuff to The Mandalorian's going to be like our most like screen accurate, like live action take on Star Wars. And so that I also enjoyed.
Yeah.
Like the scene where like the Death Troopers come and take Baby Yoda or Grogu when they're at the temple. Yeah. Right. And all of that is like hardly shot with a volume at all. Like that's just a mountain out in California.
Yeah, they did drone shots, and then they just added in all the spires and whatever Grogu was doing up there.
Anyways, so I think that's why The Mandalorian is my favorite show, but like out of all this stuff, but also why I like season 2. because season 2 they like added with it, right?
Yeah.
Like, you saw less of the desert planet that is easy.
I know that you mentioned that you like Mando season 2 a lot because it's fan service. But let me just a little rant here because you mentioned it. I despise Tatooine so much. Like, to the point that I just wish that the Death Star blew it up in the original trilogy so we would have never had to go back again at any point later.
We didn't. We went to Jakku.
No. Mando season 2 starts with them going to Tatooine.
Yes, but it spends less time on Tatooine than...
It still goes back. That's the point I'm trying to make. I'm just like...
Well,
like,
let me tell you about the Book of Boba
like
Fett.
they say both in A New Hope and in Phantom Menace that Tatooine is just supposed to be this out of place, outer rim planet that no one really knows or pays attention to, and yet it's one of the most important planets in Star Wars for not really any good reason.
That's a good complaint. I like that. It's also very boring.
Yes.
It's just sand.
Like I didn't need
rough and irritating.
I didn't need them to be like,
everywhere.
we can't go back to Tatooine again, so it's just different desert. Looks exactly the same.
I have spoken.
And the little city that they have there is like just a little less advanced version of Mos Eisley.
It's just Isley.
Yeah. That's it.
No, it's a good rant.
Thanks for the feedback. I really needed that.
Shut up, dude. I would agree with you. Mainly because it's boring, right? Like, there's not a lot that you can do with sand. Because, it's sand.
I won't quote it.
I already did.
I know you did. I heard you say it.
But anyways, and Ahsoka's one of my favorite characters. So naturally, when they bring Ahsoka into live action, I was like, oh, Rosario Dawson, how's this going to work? Perfect.
Yeah, I was definitely worried when they brought Ahsoka into live action because like the whole purpose of her in the Clone Wars and in the animated medium, I guess mostly with the Clone Wars, it doesn't feel like it as much with the Rebels, but she's supposed to be like the viewer's perspective. Like her being trained and raised in war and being indoctrinated into the Jedi, but through the point of view of really two masters with Anakin and Obi-Wan, and those very differing views on the Jedi Council and the Jedi rules and all of that. Like, we're supposed to feel just as conflicted as she is. And like when she leaves the Jedi Order because of what they did to her and how they showed her no mercy or care, like, we're saddened that she's leaving. One, because we think we're never going to see her again, but two, because we kind of get where she's coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and her reintroduction into Rebels was really good. Rebels gets a lot of hate. I actually think that Rebels is a very good show. Again, it's made from the point of view of Disney, so they can't have anything over. It's definitely not the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Right? It's far more of a kid's show than the Clone Wars was. But her introduction into Rebels was really good, and she plays a really good part of the story there. It does introduce the world between worlds, which even to this day is the oddest, like the hardest thing. And I think it's probably intended that way, but it's the hardest thing for me to wrap my head around.
Yeah, I think like it's definitely still hard to wrap your head around and understand. But like, I mean, it's not more confusing as like the father, brother, and sister.
The Mortis gods.
Yeah.
Which is what Ahsoka season 2 is going to be about.
Yeah.
Which will be interesting.
She's already met them. Yeah. They're introducing what generally is considered a horror character in Star Wars. I know that so many people. You know what? I shouldn't. It's not the Jedi way. He must stand trial. Yeah.
Anyways, so that's just me wrapping up my stuff. I need him.
No. Oh, you will die.
Don't let him kill me.
Power.
Unlimited. Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson.
We welcome you back to your regular scheduled Frame Rate podcast.
So that's where I'll leave it with Mandalorian season 2. I can go on and on, but I enjoyed that. They really kind of ruined it with season 3. Season 3 is very bleak. Boring.
I think that season 3.
They just focus too much on Bo-Katan, and I'm like, this is cool, but this is not the storyline I wanted.
Yeah. Like, I understand with like how season 2 ended with her like not being able to fully comprehend this random, I forget the term that they use for the Mandalorians that aren't from Mandalore that were just brought into
they're just referred to as cultists.
Well, there was like a specific term for, not like, obviously there was a term for what kind of Mandalorian he was, but there was just like a term for those that were just kind of brought into like the Mandalorian culture. I can't remember the actual term for it, but like, I agree. I think that the direction they were taking with Bo-Katan was just not the correct one to take. And I think they were like detracting a little too much from what was working. Cause like with the episode with Jack Black and Lizzo, like I know that one gets a whole lot of flack, but like in my opinion, I think that like it's just fun. It's fun. It's a fun episode.
I see.
It's just like people hate on it so much because it just is kind of one out of the blue and a little like too distracting from how season 1 and season 2 were.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't even have a problem with that. I just felt like the storyline that they went with was just a tad boring, personally. Just like I would have loved to see that turn into the Bo-Katan show, right? Like they could have done that and I would have been just fine, right? And it could have been a part of like the Mandalorian cinematic universe that they're kind of going for, right? Like because they're eventually all going to get together in one big movie, and it's like phases. It's like phase, what is it, 2.5 of Star Wars? Like all of these show characters are team up against Thrawn, and then that's supposed to be where they introduce the First Order. Anyways, so they could have done that, but it just was a little boring for me. Anyways, it was just boring. Like it just, had it been on its own, like had that been like season 3, had season 3 been season 2, right? Then it wouldn't have been that.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Okay.
Like, I had to think about that.
Like, I'm meaning like the energy wise, like had season 2 brought what season 3 did, and then they ended with the same like hype that season 2 brought as season 3, then it would have been like, that would have worked. It just like, it kind of like the show went like this, and then it went like this, and then it went back like this again, right?
I wonder though if that had happened, if season 2 had more of the energy that season 3 had, if the hate it would have received would have prevented a season 3 from happening.
That's a good point. But that's where I'll leave it.
Right.
What about you?
I wanted to talk about Andor.
I know it.
Because it's relevant and it just finished up. But I know that, how many again of episodes of season 1 were you able to watch?
Like probably one.
Dude,
okay. I don't remember.
Yeah.
So much has happened since then.
I want to, I guess, start by saying that like Andor was initially supposed to be a 5-season show. Supposed to be 5 seasons long.
Wow.
But shortly into the pre-production of season 2, Disney informed Tony Gilroy, the creator of Andor, that they could only do 2 seasons. So, like, I know that now that season 2 is over, a lot of the complaints, not really complaints, just things that people have said, because there's not a lot to complain about with season 2, is that, like, it just feels like really condensed. Like, it feels like they're smushing 5 seasons worth of episodes into 2, but like, it's done very masterfully.
Do you think Cassian's son is Poe Dameron?
No.
Do you think they're going to?
Because I'm pretty sure it's already established that he has a dad. Poe Dameron has a different dad.
He was born in. The only thing that's established is that he was born in 4 ABY. However, Star Wars is in the business lately of retconning everything.
Here is my genuine opinion on this, because I've seen this, like people saying all of this. I really dislike that kind of attitude about these kinds of things. I think that we, as a like fandom society of movie enjoyers, if that makes any sense, are so like, we've been drowning in like exposition and retcons and like
having to
making things connected. Yeah. Obviously, Marvel's takes a big blame for that.
Thank Marvel for that.
But we don't need that. Like, what do we gain from Cassian Andor being Poe Dameron's dad?
Nothing really. I mean, it makes it cool.
He's like, the pilot was in his genes. But like,
well, yeah, but the same could be said about people doing that. They did the same thing with Rex, but everybody loved that, right?
Yeah, but like, it's like also so insignificant that it's just like that tracks. Of course, it's this one dude that happens to look just like how they designed him in Rebels. Yeah, on Endor, I would imagine he's probably still maybe a lot older at that point, but like, I think that people that say that want that, that wanted all just things along those lines.
We don't need every dot to connect.
No, like, I think that's part of what makes Andor so good, is that like it helps better flesh out the rebellion to a degree that I think is beautiful. I know that this has been a popular opinion online, but a lot of people, and I'm getting up there in sharing this opinion, say that Andor Season 1, Andor Season 2, and Rogue One is the best trilogy in Star Wars.
Really?
Yeah.
You'd say so?
I mean, it's up there. Like, not just throw out statistics on you or anything, but Andor Season 2 is the only show in any television ever to have 5 episodes straight with ratings on IMDb of 9.5 or higher.
Really?
5 episodes in a row.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about it.
Episode 8 alone is one of the greatest episodes of television I've ever seen.
Really?
The Gorman Massacre is like beautifully devastating. I shed tears. They do it phenomenally. It feels like you're watching Les Mis, and that's on purpose.
Yeah. I mean, again, I haven't seen it. I really want to, but I've heard nothing but good things about it. And I also have heard a lot from people, mainly you, that it's refreshing that it's not, it's like, it's the most Star Wars story to be a Star Wars story, but it's also the most un-Star Wars story to be a Star Wars story.
Yeah. It's all it does is just add the right things.
Right.
Like, it's not like, there isn't really fan service. The fan service that's
it's
in
just
it
like the collectibles.
Yeah, there's like what Luthen has, right, in his front, and just like a few references here and there that are so minuscule that like you can hardly even count them as such.
Right.
But like season 1 fleshes out how the rebellion really begins, and really how it all is, like how Cassian's attitude toward the rebellion is shared across the galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Because he kind of had the same mentality that Han Solo does, where he's just trying to get by, but he'll do anything to get by,
Mm-hmm.
including kill.
Right.
Like we see
The very
in
first episode.
the very first episode, which like
Doesn't he also do that on in Rogue One too?
Yeah.
Doesn't he also
with the guy at the beginning of
isn't he,
the movie.
he pops him off right there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And like the show, especially at the end of season 2, makes that moment make a lot more sense. Because obviously for people just going into Rogue One, you're thinking, wow, this Rebel's intense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did that feel necessary? I don't know. But now it's all because the guy he met on the Ring of Kafrene, that dude with the broken arm, he learned about the Death Star plans, which we learn at the end of Andor season 2, how that is revealed that they exist and where to find them to the rebellion and to like the leaders on Yavin 4.
Mm-hmm.
And Andor is one of the like 3 people that know about the Death Star plans and about Galen Erso and about all of these different things that all become a lot more detailed in Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
But we learn that this guy on Kafrene learns about it. And so, but he won't talk to anybody but Cassian. So Cassian goes out there, he's got a broken arm. He learns that he knows about it, and you can't let that intelligence go. You can't get that tortured out of him.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, everything's screwed. So he kills him because he can't feasibly escape like Cassian can climbing up that wall.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, what at first was like, wow, that's crazy. Why'd he kill the guy?
It's a little more justified.
Yeah, now we understand a lot more.
Right. No, I wish I could help. Like add to this.
know.
I haven't seen anything.
I know.
But I know that it's good, and I will say that I do want to watch it.
And you will.
I will watch it.
You will watch Andor.
I will watch Andor.
Simple mind, people.
One thing that
Kidding.
Wait a minute. One thing I do want to talk about that I know that we both can talk about the majesty of it. Well, I guess that sometimes you don't. You were just talking one time the Clone Wars final season. That's something that came out. I know that you were like, I wonder how many people they can get to continually watch things because they just use the Clone Wars animation style, right?
Yeah, I did mention that.
But the Clone Wars final season, I guess by proxy, the Bad Batch. The Bad Batch is kind of like the Clone Wars 2. Like
It's kind of like what the Mandalorian is, the original trilogy,
yeah,
but to the Clone
Wars. But all of that together, I mean, I've said it once, I'll say it again. Like I'm a sucker for that animation style. It's so good. Compared to the Rebel stuff, it's so good. It's
Yeah.
nice to see a lightsaber that isn't a pencil. It's really refreshing.
Mm-hmm. It feels like it has substance, and it's
yeah.
actually pointy.
Yeah, and it's not doing that weird like pencil trick where it's like
Yeah, they put too much motion blur in there.
But I guess like just those animated shows, I'll just say in general, those are all really good. But nothing can, we were just talking about it before we started recording. Nothing can top like the burying the dead scene. Like that whole episode. Well, I guess those 2 episodes, because it's like a 2-parter.
Yeah.
Right?
Honestly, the last 3 episodes,
Yeah.
I mean, they have arcs, Arcs are
Mhm.
usually about 3 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I think at least for me, what adds, and probably for a lot of people, not like subconsciously, what makes that even more impactful is what it took to get the 7th season anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like the hashtag Save Clone Wars was trendy from the moment that they lost funding for it and like 12 episodes went on Netflix
Mm-hmm.
unfinished.
Mm-hmm. Which brings us to our next segment, Battlefront 3.
Battlefront 3.
Battlefront 3.
I want to be able to bury my brothers rather than just watch them die over and over again. We're not in Groundhog Day, people.
Battlefront 3.
Battlefront 3.
Anyways.
Like even now when I watch sometimes I go back and I watch the clip of when Filoni and all of the Clone Wars panel surprised the whole fan base at Comic-Con that they were bringing back a 7th season and said #Clone Wars saved. Even that gives me chills.
I was say I'm getting chills right now.
Even a tear to my eye.
Yeah.
But
and the poster that they put out for it, I remember saving that poster, downloading it to my mission phone, and that was my lock screen for the last 3 months of my mission.
Knowing that it really was the end, but also knowing that it was going to be just like the way everybody loved it.
Mm-hmm.
It was going to cover the things that they had wanted to cover in the past with the Siege of Mandalore, and they were going to connect it to Revenge of the Sith.
And how that was the big one is that everyone was asking throughout the entire show, well, how does this tie in? And I don't know if you've gotten the chance to ever watch it. I have. It's a big time.
The combination.
Yeah, the Revenge of the Sith supercut.
Yeah, I haven't seen the whole thing.
I've seen it, and it's a little weird when they transition from live action to the animation. But if you ever have a good 6 hours to burn, I would highly suggest it because it not only because the 7th season it fills those holes, right? But when you combine it with Revenge of the Sith and they split it up, right? They split it up into where each part's happening chronologically. It definitely helps Revenge of the Sith. Helps that movie mean more. When you're watching it all together, right? And you're like, oh, wow, this stuff really is just happening, right? Because they put in clips from the Bad Batch when Kanan loses his master. And then they put in the clips from Jedi Fallen Order and a various other Order 66 clips. Really well made.
I honestly, I have Disney to thank for making Order 66 one of the best scenes in fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Because especially going after seeing Revenge of the Sith in theaters and having all of that knowledge stored when you're watching it happen, that brought a tear to my eye.
Yeah.
I cried watching
I did
Ki-Adi-Mundi die.
Yeah.
And watching Plo Koon get shot down, knowing the relationship that he had established with the Wolf Pack throughout the entirety of Clone Wars makes that simple 5-second death scene hit way harder.
Well, and I think it's cool to it's cool to see with some Jedi the struggle that they have to fight back, right? Especially with Kanan, right? And the obvious one is Ahsoka, right? And Rex, and seeing the care, Rex obviously struggles and fights it as hard as he can. But to watch Rex and Ahsoka go through the Venator and not kill anyone, right? Versus Obi-Wan and Yoda, who never really had any trust for their clones, right?
At least not the relationship that
Anakin
established with
Anakin and Ahsoka, and But I don't know, just that entire season is gorgeous. And obviously the burying the dead episode, that I remember I told you, I remember crying, audibly crying to that scene.
Yeah. And
the subtle symbolism and that entire in those entire sequence of shots.
I think to me what's one of the most beautiful things about it is I'm pretty sure, I can be corrected on this, but I'm pretty sure that is the only time we ever see clones buried.
Mm-hmm.
We ever see them
that they're not expendable,
actually being honored.
Mm-hmm.
And putting the helmets up on their guns to once signify where they're laid, but also to signify that like they were soldiers and that they were brothers and they're all buried together
Mm-hmm.
and that they were all individuals
Mm-hmm.
because
Well,
all of them, like Jesse's helmet is explicitly unique. And like, obviously the closing shot of the Clone Wars series being Darth Vader walking away
And the crack through the helmet.
in the visor of an Ahsoka painted 501st Legion helmet. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Definitely some of the best like cinematography choices I've ever seen
Yeah.
anywhere.
Well, and just like it's also one of the first time. It's one of the only times that you see like the actual humanization of the clones, right? Because obviously there's always those aspects where to show that they're more than just expendable pieces of meat, right? Like, but in that scene specifically, like Rex is crying, right? And Ahsoka like comforts him, right? Really cool, really beautiful. And then like I forget the name. Hold on, I will look it up. Because it doesn't really show up. It's not really a thing. The only reason why they put it in this one is because of Rebels. When Ahsoka shows up, she shows up and she has like a little, I think it's an owl.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly what it's called. It's been a really long time.
Morai.
Yeah. And it's there.
Yeah. Morai's in like flying, right? To symbolize that like Ahsoka's still alive and around, right? It's just a cool scene. And like I told you, and it's not like a confirmed theory ever, but it's just like a fan's headcanon is that like the Empire has seen a lot of like the destruction of Venators and like that kind of stuff. Like you see it a lot in Fallen Order.
Oh yeah.
So like Anakin wouldn't need, like Darth Vader wouldn't need to go to some random planet, right, in the middle of the Outer Rim, right, and investigate like a crash.
Do we know what planet they crashed on again?
Mm-mm.
I can't remember
I
if
don't
like
think so.
if like they mentioned that they're like orbiting it at the end of the.
They might,
I can't remember.
but like Darth Vader has no reason to go there, right? Because he's got plenty of other stuff to do, especially during that time. Like I think he's like fresh on the hunt because there's like actual stormtroopers. He's fresh in the middle of like the age of the rebellion, right? Or at least in the beginnings of it, like rebels and stuff, right? So he has no reason to go out there, right? But a lot of people think that episode takes place after his fight with Ahsoka, or right before his fight with Ahsoka and Rebels, and so like. Vader didn't need to go out there, but Anakin did, right? Anakin needed some closure, right? It's not a confirmed thing, but it's a cool thing to think of, right?
Yeah.
Like, especially with all the symbolism that they've added to Anakin in these like Disney Plus shows, like to show subtly, like in tiny bits and pieces, that there actually is still good and there is still human underneath all of that robot and cyborg, that there is a part of Anakin that is still there. And I like that, like you said, even if it's unintentional and then they come back later and they're like, oh, by the way, like it's cool.
You know what you all were saying about this? You were right all along.
But that's the stuff.
Anything else?
That's probably the stuff that I enjoyed the most about all of these is the continuation of Anakin's legacy. And like showing how he gets to the point where he is in like, because he's never the main character of any of these shows, but how he gets to the point and then beyond in the original trilogy. I think it's really cool. I love that stuff.
Yeah,
I think that's why I like Kenobi so much.
Just adding depth. Yeah, do we want to talk about Kenobi last? Do you want that to be the very last thing?
I liked Kenobi.
Yeah, I liked it. I just think
other than the woods running away scene,
like it could have been different.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah,
like I even now I'm still conflicted on if I think including Leia was a good choice. I don't think it necessarily it doesn't ruin everything. It doesn't like if anything, it just adds depth as to how she knows about Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Mm-hmm.
But like, does she ever learn that his name's actually Obi-Wan, or does he just call himself Ben with her the whole time?
I think he calls himself Obi-Wan at the very end.
Okay,
because he has like
a long time.
He has
that
like moment with Leia where he's like, "Remember how I told you that I didn't know your parents? That was a lie." And then he tells her all the attributes that she has. I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm almost positive that that's where he's like, my name's actually Obi-Wan. Right. And if not, her dad's Bail Organa, and he knows who Obi-Wan is. I would agree though. They could have omitted Leia out of it, and I think it would have made it a little better. I don't think it would have made it much better. I think that it could have just survived as Obi-Wan versus the Inquisitors.
Mm-hmm. Honestly,
like kind of like the same story that Fallen Order was going after, but with Obi-Wan, I think would have worked really well.
Yeah, it's just like it's nice that they gave Obi-Wan story one, like between the 19 years of Luke being raised, and like I think making him like distrusted and disliked by Owen and Beru, mostly Owen, and like Owen being sassy.
Well, and
gosh,
not to mention Owen and Beru being absolute badasses against the ninth sister. Right? That's her name?
Yeah, and then regular stormtroopers come around.
I know.
Oops, all skeletons. But like I don't know if including, I'm probably going to botch this pronunciation, but Kumail Nanjiani as the Jedi who uses magnets. Like, cool that you have a known personality and actor in a Star Wars project. But I just wonder if it's kind of like the same thing with what they did with Jack Black and Lizzo. If it's like they're writing this part and they're like, you know who'd be good for this?
Yeah.
This guy.
Yeah, but he does introduce something like the Underground Railroad. I don't know what it's.
I mean, I guess.
What is it called? Is it like The Path?
Yeah.
That is cool. And like the concepts there, I think that's talked about a little more in
Tales of the Underworld. They do develop it with the one kid that I can't remember his name. I literally just watched this show, and I can't even remember.
Like that they mentioned Quinlan Voss. That's cool because he's a cool guy. I like him.
He's like Jedi Rambo.
Yeah, he's cool. Certified fresh.
Yeah. But I guess to kind of go along with what you were just saying about the development and depth of Anakin with the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, like obviously this like what do you want to say, like this is like 9 years after Revenge of the Sith? I'm trying to think of how old Luke is in this.
I would say that. Yeah, he's like a kid.
Yeah. Like, so this is still, I guess, to a degree, like Darth Vader in his prime. Like his most angry and his like, he's pretty much become Darth Vader.
Yeah.
There's not much Anakin left, if any. And then, like, you can see that with how pursuant he is with
Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan. As soon as he learns that he's still kicking it and he's still around, he does nothing but go after him.
And that final fight scene, I know that a lot of people thought that was lame. I thought it was great. And
I think it's the best part of the show.
The complete coincidental lighting that happens with the blue and the reds.
You want to explain that real quick for people that don't know it?
Yes, I want to be quick because I just thought of another scene
of
a different show. Continuing Anakin's thing. Anyways, in the Obi-Wan show, for those of you who haven't watched, first off, where have you been? Second off, what happens?
The end of Star Wars month? I haven't.
what happens is that they're fighting, and Obi-Wan cuts part of Vader's mask off, revealing Anakin's face. And Anakin speaks to Obi-Wan. And he goes through this entire monologue of like, you didn't kill, because Obi-Wan's like, I'm sorry for everything.
I failed you, all that.
Right. And Anakin goes, / Darth Vader goes, I'm not your failure, right? You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did. Just like how I'm going to destroy you, right? And at the very beginning of that, like it's Anakin giving Obi-Wan closure, and the blue light coincidentally lights up Vader's face. So it's Anakin speaking. And then when he switches back to Vader and he gets angry again, he holds up his red lightsaber, like, and the red light fills the helmet. That was completely like on accident. And they liked it so much that they kept it in. Pause, jump to see the fulfillment of Anakin's mastery of the Force in Ahsoka when they enter the world between worlds. How could we not? That is probably the greatest scene. Like that whole series of events is the greatest thing that came out of so far, like singular scene wise, that in my opinion, that's the greatest scene that has come out of the Disney Plus shows.
It's okay. You haven't watched Andor yet.
You cannot tell me. We get flashbacks of all of the Clone Wars in live action. Like that's like what everybody's been calling for since the Clone Wars came out. And
it's up there.
To see Anakin pull out the red Graflex lightsaber and turn into what's it called? It's like Nightfall Anakin or something like that. And like when he walks through the smoke and there's like the thunder and lightning crackling sounds and it like flashes and he flashes as Vader.
You like conviction.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's dope.
But it's just to symbolize Anakin's full mastery of the Force. And it's a cool place for Anakin's personal storyline to end / continue. But
yeah, and still like coincide with Ahsoka, her continued development and trauma with her master, even after all these years.
Coming to terms with what her legacy means and what she's passing on. Yeah.
I'm just so intrigued to see, because we already know he's going to be, but how much involvement Hayden Christensen will have in season 2.
I'm just interested because
I would think with the Mortis gods
that
he's going to be very involved.
I bet you he'll probably play like a role of like the father. But that's for another time.
Yeah, we're going to have to wait until those shows come out for us to really talk about it anyway. For those of you who are still seeing us for the next 5 seconds, subscribe, follow, share. That was the wrong button.
Here, I'll do the outro.
Dang, man, you sound just like it. That's crazy impressive.